Israel revealed something that I'm not necessarily sure a lot of people were aware of, which is that he was about to meet with Benjamin Netanyahu, and he did. Didn't apparently go as planned, but I guess he brought up Israel to Benjamin Netanyahu. I would love to have been a fly on the wall in this meeting.
I mean, just the whole explanation of the situation still, to me, is one that needs to be scrutinized, like, totally by everybody on both sides. This is not normal, okay? And Tim Pool, who calls himself anti-establishment, meeting with a foreign, it doesn't sit well at all. And then how did he bring up the topic of Israel to Netanyahu? Tim Pool, and Netanyahu is Israel. Like, so I don't understand. But that was probably him scapegoating. Anyway, we're going to watch Emma Vigeland destroy Tim Pool, like she's really good at doing, actually. And, yeah, we're going to go from there. Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and get into it.
But here he is explaining it to his audience, being fully transparent about this meeting with the man who's committing genocide right now.
Being fully transparent after, we should be clear, being fully transparent after news of it already leaked, and it was published in an article where his name was included in the list of influencers who met with Netanyahu.
I was being facetious, but I appreciate that clarification.
I had a feeling, but I wanted to make it completely clear.
My having left this meeting is they are clueless to the issue. They don't know, despite the fact there was literally a protest outside, they were dismissive of. They say these things happen. The trends that I see are younger people are increasingly anti-Israel, and on the right, they're relatively neutral or don't care. My prediction, as I made over a year ago, is that with the anti-war elements of the populist movement on the right, and the anti-Israel section of the left, not to mention there is a smaller but still prominent anti-Israel right, Israel's not going to have support from this country in 20 years.
Let me tell you something right now, okay? Tim Pool sits here. By the way, guys, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Please hit subscribe. I saw somebody commented on one of my episodes. I'm going to go back and comment to that person. Thank you so much to everybody who's watching. But yeah, so the thing about Tim Pool, what he just said there about, yeah, there's a small fraction of the right that no, bro. It's not just a small fraction. It's a fraction of the right that I will say now, not the influencers, but the regular folk. It's a lot more than you think that aren't approving of this unholy alliance. And the more information they get, the better it will be for them. But this is Tim Pool is now the hired mouthpiece to kind of water down the situation, because he has a hoodie on, he has, he's got his little beanie, whatever thing on, and, and hey, he's not threatening. He's not, telling you what to think. He's Tim Pool. He's totally cool, man. He's chill.
The U.S. is going to say, we've got two factions. Young people on the right who are following in the footsteps of MAGA populist movement who don't want to fund foreign wars, they vote no on Israel. The far left that hates Israel, they vote no on Israel. Israel, you get no funding anymore. That's what I see happening.
I think that's fairly obvious when you talk to any, Zoomers. They're clearly not pro-Israel. They look at the United States and say, look, we have our own problems here. And they look at our history of, foreign adventurism, and they're like, this hasn't worked out for me personally. I can't afford this. I can't pay bills, or I can't have a nice place, or whatever. So I think it's fairly obvious, right?
I think it comes from a lack of education on like how foreign policy actually works, and the fact that you literally cannot survive in this world without allies. 10 guys show up to beat you up. Are you going to fight them all by yourself? No, you need friends.
I wonder why he's talking like this. So Tim Pool has the neocons on his show, right? So here's the thing. It's like, how allies work, but nobody can tell you what Israel's actually done for, seriously. They'll be like, oh, well, they gave us, a spy informant about 9/11. No, they gave us wrong intel on, Iraq with weapons of mass destruction. Stop, guys. It's 2025. It's okay. We can now talk about this in hindsight. That's the even better part, is that we have the blessing of being able to talk about this in hindsight. Yet we're still supposed to take the 1980s, 1990s answers. Huh.
What's that?
What?
I said Phil might.
Phil might. Yeah. But you see this from people in Congress too, that they just don't understand how foreign policy works. I think is really unfortunate. But the other issue to what you're talking about with like the lack of.
Sorry, so we just need to pause. We can go back to this. We need to be so sophisticated, and the way we get sophisticated isn't like, oh, you know, I thought he was going to mention maybe like trade routes or something like that. But it was, imagine you're going to get beat up and you don't have a crew behind you. You need friends.
I mean, it's a little
sophistication.
But when we're not talking about Israel, these guys are all about isolationism and America number one, and we don't need anybody else. And they should be groveling at our feet, coming to us.
You don't know how foreign policy works.
I don't. I guess. I don't know who. I know who Tim Pool is. I know who Phil from All That Remains is, and I know who. But I don't know who that other guy is. But I'd like to know what that other guy is. I don't know who that is. That name sounds familiar, but I would love to know his opinion on our support for Ukraine, because I know what Tim Pool and likely Phil's opinion on that is. It's probably a bit different than we got to support Israel because we need allies. It's more probably like Ukraine needs to be groveling at our feet enough, and the funding of Ukraine. I'd love to know what these guys feel about that one.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
Well,
Go ahead.
in that sense, they're just mirroring like the average Republican politician's viewpoint on the issue, which is to speak a lot about isolationism, a lot about not funding, foreign wars and spending that money at home, because that was mainstreamed in the Republican Party largely by Trump in 2016. Like, he was one of the first people to start really speaking to like the sham of the Iraq war from the Republican side, and that opened the floodgates for a lot of sentiment that people were feeling, which is that how come we're spending all this money overseas and the roads outside my home look like garbage, right? And the right wing has used that wedge to further their neo-fascist aims, but they want you to carve out an exemption for Israel that doesn't make sense in their ostensible worldview, but makes sense when you understand that the Democrats, they're taking large amounts of money from military industrial contractors and the military industrial complex in the form of AIPAC money.
And I mean, so, when we go on yes, exactly so, right? So, I mean, there's more to it than that. When you really look at the history and you allow yourself to be open to real answers, you see that, this is just not, I mean, it is this alliance again with Israel, like I always say, it is so unholy. I don't want to take it there. I'm trying to keep it as, pragmatic as possible. But the fact is that we should not still be doing this. I mean, it's to the point where there's churches that have been warped to think that we have to bless Israel to be blessed. And I'm wondering, well, how blessed are we? We are funding a genocide, all of this. But even if you didn't care, do you not care about your American brothers and sisters? I mean, how many wars are we going to go to in the Middle East? Like I said, I've said before, and right now this weekend, there's supposed to be some sort of negotiations with Iran. But at the same time, Israel is like, yo, we're going to still, look to allegedly send attacks to Iran. And that will pull America into a war. And that's the point, right? How many times is this going to happen? So it's not even just about, how they feel about Ukraine and this. And what's funny is that I don't want it anywhere. But after a while with the Ukraine war, I was just looking like, oh, my God, we've really proxied a bunch of people to go end themselves for nothing. This has to stop.